Hi. Back in 2008, my uncle gave me his PlayStation 2. Ever since then, this console has been one of my favourites, so when it came to creating stuff in 3D, I had to make the PlayStation 2 startup animation. Once I'd recreated this animation, I posted it on my socials and it very quickly became one of my most viewed and liked videos. So today, I'm going to share with you guys the knowledge of PlayStation 2 startup animation with this 50+ minute YouTube tutorial, completely uncut. That's not true. It's a little bit cut, but not edited to a heavy degree. I make a few mistakes along the way, and I think it's important for these to be seen, and you can see how I correct my mistakes. So get your keyboard and mouse at the ready, and join me on recreating the PlayStation 2 startup animation. Thank you for watching in advance. So, as with pretty much any project, we're going to need reference images. In this case, that's pretty easy because it's a single scene that we're recreating, and to actually create the scene, we're going to just be needing one still image. And that image is going to be the start of the PlayStation 2 startup animation. I've found a video of this on YouTube, so I've saved it and I've screenshotted the first frame, and we are going to import that now. So I'm going to come into the top view and come down to images, reference, and I'm going to find where I've saved it, which is here. I'm going to be recreating this animation for social media, so it's going to be in a portrait orientation. You can follow this tutorial and do it landscape if you want. Every single thing that I'm doing in this video will still apply, but for the sake of using it for my social media, I'm going to recreate it in this orientation. Once we've done this, we need to think about what is actually the main thing in the scene. And for me, I think it's pretty obvious. It's the tower, these like cube towers. So we're going to find an object that most represents these towers. And for me, I think that is the cube. So we're going to bring that over here and scale this down slightly to get a vague idea of the size. Now you might actually notice that this cube here is 2D and these towers are 3D. Now this cube is 3D, but it's the type of view that we're looking at it from. If you, I think this is orthographic. So we're looking at the top orthographic view. If we press 5 on the numpad, we can toggle between top and perspective. But to save this, having to continuously switch between these, we're just going to add a camera. This is good because it just gives us the final view of what the camera is going to be seeing. So I'm going to bring this up in the Z axis, and I'm going to change it to cycles while we're here. And I'm going to change this to, I'm just going to switch those values around, and if I press 0, I can see the camera's view, and then I'm going to press G and Z and bring it up to I think that's good, and you can actually see now, you can see the depth of the cube, and it helps us. It will help us in a minute with aligning the cubes with the reference image. Sorry. So I'm going to bring this up to the top corner around here, and we're going to add, instead of duplicating the cube, I don't know, 100 times, whatever it is, we're going to add an array modifier, and this basically does it for us. We're going to, I think it's about 8 or 9, so we're going to go, just try this value out. There's quick count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9 across. We're going to change that to 9, and then we're going to up this value slightly, maybe 1.25. Maybe, it doesn't need to be perfect, but yeah, you know what, it does need to be perfect, so I'm just going to bring it along slightly, so it's sort of, the cube's in the middle of our view. I think that's fine. And we're going to add another array modifier for the y-axis, and we're going to bring the factor x to 0 and the y to 1.25, negative 1.25, because we're going the other direction. I've just typed in the same thing again, negative, there we go. And we're going to bring this count up till we get about the length of the scene. I'm actually going to bring this up slightly because they're out of view at the top. No, I'm not. I'm going to leave it as it is. Is that about right, do you think? I reckon maybe we'll bring this number down slightly to 1.2, negative 1.2, but we'll just increase the scale of this cube just so it better aligns with the image. Oh, move this around until we're happy with what we're seeing. So I've settled on this. I'm going to bring this up to 14, I think, and we're just gonna bring it along here just so it fills the scene a bit more. Yeah, I just had a little play around just to get it a bit more accurate. Obviously, the cubes aren't lining up, but this is fine. It will look, you know, it's fine. So we're going to come out of X-ray mode, and you can see that there's actually, if we just look at the reference image, there isn't a tower for every section. You know, it doesn't look like what we have now with every section filled. So we're going to get rid of some of the cubes. We can, oh wait, first of all, we need to apply these array modifiers. So we're going to press A and A, or sorry, Control A to apply them. Or if you don't want to do that, you can press here. So now with the array modifiers applied, you might be thinking this doesn't look anything like what we're seeing with the reference image. So if we just look at the reference image, you can see that there's gaps missing in between. It's not just, that's my air freshener. It's not just, you know, it's not a grid completely filled with cubes. There's going to be some missing. So instead of just going through and selecting each one individually, make sure you're in X-ray mode, we're going to do it slightly differently. We're going to come up to the top, press select and select random. And I'm going to bring this number really low down because you can see even with the top faces, only a few top faces selected, there are still the side of the cubes selected. So it is actually, it looks like more than it actually is. So I'm going to bring this right down. And then I'm going to press Control and plus, and this will add every face or vertex or edge or whatever mode you're in. It will add, it will connect, or it will select the next face along from the one you selected. So because these cubes aren't touching, we can just Control plus 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 until you can see the full cube is selected, and then we're going to press X and delete vertices. So if we come out of X-ray mode, you can see that's already, or we'll go into the camera view. You can see already this is looking more like the final product. Now it is still more than I'd like, so I'm going to go through and manually in vertices select, come into X-ray mode. I'm going to press 7 on the number pad, and I'm just going to come through and just delete a few extra cubes that I feel like you know, should be missing. I'm going to roughly use the background or the reference image as reference, just to get rid of a few. You see on the edges there seems to be less cubes, so I'm going to try and focus on some of these edges. And I think I might just leave it, maybe I'll get rid of this one as well. Delete, and I might leave it at that for the minute. I might get rid of these two. And I'm going to leave it at that. Obviously, you can always get rid of more as you go further along, but I think for the minute, that looks good. Another thing you might be thinking is these are all the same height, and that doesn't look anything like the reference image. That's the main part of the reference image. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to adjust these heights randomly as well. So to do that, we want each cube to be its own object. So we're going to come into edit mode again. We're going to press A to select all, and then we're going to press P and separate by loose parts. So now each cube is its own thing. We're actually going to select all of these cubes and put them in their own collection, just to clean things up a little bit. I'm going to enable cubes. And with every cube selected, we're going to right click, set origin to geometry, and you can see each cube has its own orientation. If we go not into that mode, if we go into, you can see each cube can be rotated individually. On top of being able to rotate them individually, we can also scale them individually. If we use proportional editing, and select here and go random, with all the cubes selected, if we press S and Z, you can see, no, I've done that wrong. Without all the cubes selected, if we press just one of the cubes and then press S and Z, it will randomly select other cubes around the cube that you selected. And if you scroll on the mouse wheel, you can see that they randomly assigning height to these towers. So if we come into the camera view, these already, you sort of bring the opacity down of this just so you can see it a bit better. You can see the towers are going down, which is far closer to the actual reference image. If we go into front-facing view, you can see these are all different heights out the bottom, which isn't, it doesn't really matter, but we're going to select all of the towers. Make sure you're in X-ray mode. Select all the towers. Tab to go into edit mode. I'm going to select all these lower vertices. I'm going to press S, Z, and 0. Right, with median, I changed it to individual origins. With the median point selected, we want to go into the front-facing view, select all the lower half, and then press S, Z, 0. And I might just bring this down slightly to give the illusion that the towers are, towering. And there we go. That already looks way better with random heights. Some of these towers I might want a little bit higher, or some I might want a little bit lower. So I can come into tab and just bring some of them, change them slightly, make sure I have all of the towers selected. We can just change this slightly if we'd like. We don't have to, but you can see some of the towers might look slightly higher, which gives it more depth of the scene. So I'm going to do some of these now. So there we go. On top of this, there are, in the reference image, proper zoomed out, you can see in the distance there are also some towers that you aren't actually really seeing. So we're going to add some of those. Now this doesn't matter too much about being in line with the other cubes, because you're not really going to notice it. But I'm just going to add a few. Oh, what have I done? Nope. Oh, proportional editing off. We're going to select a few of these towers and just so they're visible, slightly out of frame, just like this, just to give it more depth, so it doesn't look like it's just the view that we're seeing. I'm going to get rid of a few extra cubes just to make it, I think around the edges there's not as many cubes, so I'm going to get rid of a few of them. I think that is good. So with this, I'm going to get rid of these cubes, and we're going to think about the next thing that is important in this scene. For me, I think these see-through glass-like cubes are, very noticeable. So we're going to do that next. This again, pretty easy. We're going to add a cube. We're going to bring this right down in size. We're going to bring these over to the general area and double tap R, and you have this loose rotate mode. And we're going to duplicate, rotate again, duplicate, rotate again, and then there is one there as well. Rotate again. For the sake of making this look slightly better, I'm going to bring that over there. So it's just a bit more. It's not all just in one corner. So if we add these towers back, you can see they're overlapping, which isn't ideal. So I'm going to select all of these cubes and bring them up in the Z-axis, bring the cubes back so we can have sort of a reference of how far away we are. Come back into the camera, and with medium point selected, we're going to scale down. I'm going to get rid of these cubes again so I can see a bit better. And loosely line these up again, just like that. And there we go. We have our cubes. This is looking better, but it's hard to tell how good it's looking in this mode. So we're going to come over to rendered view, which might take a couple seconds. And you can see here what we're dealing with. We're going to add some materials to these objects, and I'm going to start with the easiest one, which is the cube. So I'm going to come over to here and add, I'm going to change this to cubes. And this doesn't need to be super detailed. Drink break. Oh, and coffee break. I need to clean up my coffee break. Right, with all those breaks out the way, let's carry on. So with these cubes, the material doesn't need to be super detailed because the original animation isn't super detailed and you're not really getting up close to the cube. So we're going to just apply, we're going to change from principled BSDF, sorry. We're going to change it to a glass BSDF. Let's change this to 0.2. You can see it is hard to tell at the moment because we don't have any light in the scene. Maybe I will just add a quick HDRI. So you can see it's a bit better. I'm going to bring the strength down so we are better matching what we're seeing. I'm going to bring this roughness down slightly. Again, this can all be changed further down the line. I'm going to add this same material there, add the material to this cube as well, and then add the material to this cube. So we have our glass cubes. Next thing we're going to add is the material. Actually, no. The next thing we're going to do, just because I don't want to use this HDRI, it's not really helping. The next thing we're going to do, change it back. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some lights to the scene. This will help us further down the line. So I'm going to come over to here, and I'm going to add a point light. Again, it doesn't really matter where you're necessarily putting these lights. I'm going to duplicate it and bring another one over here. It doesn't matter too much where these lights are, because again, I think it's different with every of these PS2 animations. Bring that over here maybe. So I'd experiment, see what looks good for your scene. I think this looks okay. Make sure I'm in the camera view because that wasn't very helpful, was it? I'm going to bring this face down slightly because it doesn't look too good with the poo. Get rid of that. Yeah, I'm going to bring this face down slightly because it doesn't look too. That looks a bit better with the light. And then where's this other light? Bring that around maybe to about maybe here. Is that light adding much? Just bring that down, the X. There you go, I think that looks a bit better. But I don't want the high contrast in between towers because you're not getting that in the original. Again, let's have a look. We've had a while since we've looked at it. You see it's still a pretty base, the light's pretty even over the whole image. You do get dark patches and light patches, but it's not as contrasty as what we have right now with our scene, if I come out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a area light across the whole scene, just like this. Scale it up slightly, go into camera view, scale along the wire a bit more, and I'm just going to bring this up to maybe about 15. Yeah, I think that looks good. It's sort, it's looking similar to the reference image now, and you can better see that maybe this glass material isn't quite right. If we bring it down the roughness slightly, maybe play around with the the IOR value. I think that looks good. I think that is looking good. So now with the towers done and the cubes done, you might think this next step is going to be hard, but it's actually probably one of the easiest steps, and that is we're going to do the fog, smoke, mist part of the reference, which is this blue mist here. Now you could overcomplicate this if you wanted to, but because the scene's pretty simple and you're only really seeing it from one view, we're not going to overcomplicate it. What we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the reference image just for the minute so we can better gauge where we are. And we're going to download a PNG image of fog. This is the image that I've used. It's pretty basic, but it's easy to work with. So I'm going to bring this image in as a mesh plane. And I'm going to bring it up in the Z axis so I can see what I'm dealing with a bit better. I might get rid of, just hide. I want some of the lights with it as well, so let me come out of that. I'm going to hide these cubes, and I might make these, add them to a collection as well. Just so it's easier to deal with. I'm going to change those to glass cubes. There we go. So we've got the glass cubes, the towers, and now we have this fog. Slight problem with the fog though. I kind of want one of these. We'll add a cube so I can demonstrate. There we go. That's fine. You can see that this cube, this fog, isn't transparent, so it's not actually that useful right now. You can't just have a black background to the scene; it won't look right. So we need to remove this black background, which is actually really simple to do with an image simple like this. So we're going to bring up the shader editor. You can change it in this section here, or if you want to, you can go over to the shading tab. But I like to just do it all in the same tab. So we're going to bring up the shader editor. Got sand in my eye. We're going to bring up the shader editor, and we're going to play with the alpha of this object, of this material. So we're going to add a color ramp. Place it here, and we're going to also duplicate this, I think. See what sort of play around and see what outcomes we get. I think yeah. So we can see already that we're seeing through the cube. If I add an emission as well, blue emission, because that's obviously what we're going for. Bring that up. If we add this here, so right, if we go like that and then maybe an invert color node, nope, that's not doing it. Sorry, so I couldn't figure it out, and it's because I was doing something really stupid. I had this image, I duplicated it and had it plugged into a color ramp, which is what we want to do. What am I doing? We do want to do this, but then I had this also plugged into this, so it wasn't actually working, but that's fine. We're going to bring this into the alpha, and you can see that's all you need to do. I wonder if I could actually have just done that. I could have just done that. We don't need this. That was me being stupid. So with the, make sure you have an emission shader on as well with the color that we want. We want it to be a blue color. And if we actually get rid of this cube now, because we can tell that it's transparent, we bring back these cubes in this, go into the camera view, and if we rotate it how we want it. Sorry, I keep coughing. I need to be drinking more. Fucking hell, that's why you don't drink with a spoon. So yeah, we have this this now, and we're going to play with the color slightly. Where have I actually? There we go. I'm going to play with the color slightly. Maybe bring the reference back. Pull it to the side, so we have a better reference. And I think about that. I think that looks good. Maybe bring it up slightly. How bright can we make it before it ruins the scene? No, I think that's good. I think that's good. We're going to bring back to 0. Whereabouts is it? Yeah, we want it to be way lower than that. So we want it to be amongst the towers. Make it a bit bigger maybe. See, I think that's looking good, but I think we want it to be lower than all of the towers. So if maybe we are in this view, we bring that down slightly, and then bring this down. There we go. I think that's looking good. Maybe scale it up a little bit. That, I think we're getting close. So now we've added the fog to the scene. This is pretty much finished, but there is one thing which I will admit, it stressed me out quite a bit when I was making it, and in the preparation for this tutorial. It's a little bit fiddly, but I believe in you, and I believe in myself, and we're going to do this together. So we're going to add the orbs, which I'll put on the screen now. These little orbs that go across the animation. The part that's annoying with this scene, or the part that's annoying with this part of the tutorial, is it's a little bit fiddly, but there probably is a better way to do it, I'm not going to lie, and if you know the better way to do it, please let me know in the comments, because it's been bugging me a lot. So to start with, we're going to add a... Ooh, put my cap locks on, we don't want that. So to start with, we're going to add a Bezier curve. I'm going to scale it up slightly, make sure it's higher than the towers. But I'm going to have it lower than the cubes, just to have some more depth. So we're going to go into camera view. And I think this path is actually okay. Basically what you want, we're going to go into solid view. Wherever the path or the curve that you've created is the path that the orbs are going to follow. So straight away we're going to come over to here, and under this geometry tab we're going to increase, no we're not going to increase the offset, we're going to increase the depth. Is it even under the geometry tab? It is. We're going to increase the depth only to 0.01, only super skinny. That'll come clear why we've done that in a second. We're going to raise the resolution. I'm going to have it to about 30. Obviously this is dependent on what your computer can hold, but I don't think it's that taxing on the hardware. It might be, I don't know. Yeah, we're going to leave it at that, around 30. And if we come back into the rendered view, I'm going to select this and we're going to add a material. I'm going to come off this so we can see the actual curve, but we still have the material view selected. We're going to do this to trail, or we're going to do, what color should we do first? Red, blue, green. So so we have a red, a blue, and a green trail. So we're going to start off with the red. So we're going to do red. We're going to do red. Oh, red. So straight away, do the same thing again. I selected it. It's come off it, but don't select another object. So you still have the material, but you can see the actual object still. We're going to come to emission, and we're going to bring this up slightly, maybe about 1. Again, this can all be adjusted after. In fact, it will be adjusted after. And then we're going to make this like a red. I'm going to change this to 5 maybe. We want it to be quite bright. We want it to be quite bright because obviously it's a light trail, so maybe even 10. Maybe we'll just leave it at 5. Now we're going to, I think with the alpha, if I remember correctly, we want to add a color ramp, just like so. I need a wee, BRB. Right, wee break done. We're back. Once we've done this, we want to bring in a color ramp, and I believe we want to add it to the alpha, maybe, and also add this. Remove that. Bring that in there. Right, so we want to have a mapping node and a texture coordinate node. And I think if we change this value, bring these really close together. There we go. So we want to bring these close together, and then we can adjust these with this mapping node here. I'm going to bring that over. We're going to add another color, bring this across and make that black. I'm actually going to bring this out like that. I'm going to add another, like a grayer node. Oh, we want to grab the right node, make sure we're zoomed in. We want to grab the right node, bring that over here. So it's harsh on one side and then it's more tapered on the other side. I'm going to scale this slightly to about that maybe. And then if you look along this value, you can see now we have a trail. Oh, that looks good. Like I said, there might be an easier way to do this, but this is the way that I've done it. So yeah, we have this trail coming across the scene, which looks awesome. I'm going to pair it up with the reference. Yeah, so I think the length of this trail is near enough accurate to the length that we're going for with the replication, but we need to double check how long the actual animation is. And I think the actual this scene of the animation, because it does cut to black and it has the logo come up and stuff, this part of the animation is, I believe, 9 seconds long. So we're going to come over to here and we're going to change this. I'm going to do it at 30 frames. You could do it at 60 and have it super high fidelity, but you know, the PlayStation 2 animation wasn't 60 frames per second. So I'm going to have it at 30. No, I'm going to change this to 30, sorry. And I'm going to have this at 30 times star 9. That's 9 sets of 30 frames, so 9 seconds. And if I drag this along here, we can go into the timeline. So we brought this across, and I'm going to come over to the mapping node, and you see this Y value here. The X as well, but I'm going to use the Y. This sort of dictates where along the curve that the trail is. So I'm going to bring this back to about there maybe. I'm going to add a keyframe, and I'm going to drag this along to the end, and I'm going to add a keyframe, maybe just so as the trail's coming out there. Add a keyframe. So now if we go like this, you can see it's going along. But there is a slight issue. This curve, it's not going at a constant speed. It's slow. It's going slow, and it speeds up in the middle, and then it tapers off at the end. We want this to be one constant speed. So to do that, we're going to need to select our Bezier curve. We also need to select this mapping node, so the keyframe show up. But we're actually going to come out of the timeline, and we're going to select the graph editor. Going to press normalize, so it's easier to view. We're going to press, no we're not, we're going to press N to get rid of that side. Maybe bring this in slightly. We're going to press A to select all, T, and then make it linear. So if we look at it now, it's going at one constant speed, which is perfect. And if we select this again, I might actually just have it speed up slightly. It's a bit annoying when make sure I can't tell if I'm going in the right direction. Is that better? Is that a bit? Yeah, I think that's fine. So yeah, we have that at a constant speed now, but we want to add a orb. So to do that, if we bring it back to here, we're going to bring in a UV sphere. This doesn't need to be this high, this doesn't need to have this many segments because we're not actually going to see the orb. So I'm going to bring it right down to maybe 8. We're going to shrink it right down. You can obviously do all of this in solid mode, but it helps a lot to see the actual trail. So I'm going to bring this down to here. I'm going to scale this down to about that maybe. And just so we can see this a bit better, I'm going to add the material. I'm going to type in red orb. And where is it? There it goes. So we're going to add a red emission to this. We're going to have this high, maybe about 5. There we go. Looks good. We're going to make the orb slightly smaller, and we're going to pin it to the end there. Now we want to come over to the constraints. We're going to add a constraint and a follow path. We're going to select the curve. Now I've just realized I moved this orb, which I don't want to do. So if I bring this back, I'm going to snap to world origin. And if I now show this, what have I done wrong? If I remove this, what have I done? Ah, right, okay, so I don't know why I didn't do that. Snap, oh, it's, all right, okay, that was me being stupid. Snap the selection to the cursor. Why is it not doing it? Have I not selected it? Snap selection to cursor. There we go. I don't know why I wasn't doing that then. Right, now we're going to add the constraint, and we're going to add a follow path. We're going to select the Bezier curve. Right, I'm back. I just had a little break. Where were we? So we're adding. So we just added this orb. Pairing up to the trail. It's not pairing up perfectly, so I'm going to come up to the first frame again, and I'm going to adjust this Y value here. I'm going to bring it back to about there. Yeah, that looks good. Going to keyframe that, and then I'm assuming no, that's looking good. So what's this end value? Okay, so that's looking good. Obviously this orb isn't following the curve, so we're going to add the animation to that now. with the offset, I'm going to here, I'm going to apply a keyframe for the offset. We're going to come along to the final frame and we're going to move this along. Obviously you can't see the end of the curve, so we're going to overshot it slightly. And let's added a Bezier curve. We're going to change this to linear, and we're going to come back and you can see it's staying towards the end, and it's annoyingly, this is where the annoying part comes in, it's annoyingly overshotting slightly. It's always behind, so we're going to bring the change this slightly so it's about the same. Sorry, I did that by selecting this end keyframe and moving in the y-axis, so you can move it along. And you can see it kind of, it doesn't stay perfect. I'm not too sure why. Gonna have to change this as well to about there. I don't know why it does that, and I've been really struggling to figure out why it does that. So if any of you guys know why it's doing that, please let me know. But there is an easy way to fix this, and that's just to add extra keyframes. So we can see it here, it shoots off. If I go to about the middle maybe, and add a keyframe there, and I change it slightly, like so, you can see it already. It's a bit annoying. I'm gonna have to do it again here. Oh, change, add a keyframe there. But you can see between keyframes, you want it to be at the end. So I'm going to maybe there, bring it to about that. So when it's in the camera's view, that's looking fine. You can see it's going on. It is actually slightly behind the trail, so I'm going to adjust that just so it isn't. Just make sure it's on the tip of each time. I think that's maybe there, it could be a bit further forward. Just a little bit. And I think that looks good. So we now have our orb with the trail following. And I think, is that a good scale? Let me look at the reference. Yes, so the orbs are quite big with the actual intro, so we're going to leave that as it is. Maybe I'm going to shrink it slightly. Going against my words slightly, I'm going to shrink it. That should be okay. Look, that looks good. So we've added that, and we're going to add a few more. We're going to copy and paste this Bezier curve just to save us some time, and I'm going to rotate it so it doesn't look exactly the same. Maybe I'll rotate it that way, so it comes from the other direction. And if we look at this, look at that. You wouldn't even know. Might have to change these values slightly. Because it's trail, we're going to duplicate that. We're going to do this as the red trail again, just so it's a bit easier to deal with. And I'm going to change it slightly on that axis, so it's slightly different. Look, you wouldn't even notice. We've done that, and I'm going to duplicate this orb. Copy, Control Shift D. There we go. But this, we don't want it to be constrained. We don't want it to be following the first Bezier. We want it to be following the second one. So if I go along here now, so you see completely not following the path. So we need to adjust these values again. So if I go to here, let's go to where it's first showing. We'll delete that frame there, and we'll bring this along the y-axis to about there. There we go, this one's off, so I'm going to adjust that to about there. Again, this one needs to be adjusted. I think if I change, there we go. I'm going to need to add another frame. Like this, like I say, and this is a bit fiddly, but this is the only really fiddly step. And as I say, there is probably also a easier way to do this, but I have tried several things, and as far as I'm aware, with what I'm doing, this is the easiest way of achieving the exact result that we want. So I'm going to have to add another one there. Yeah, that is way off, that one. Can't really see because of that cube, but that might help us a little bit. Bring it in front. And I think that looks good. There we go. That's our second curve. Like I say, when it comes out of frame, you see it's coming off. It doesn't really matter because obviously it's out of frame. But I'm actually going to repeat this now off camera. I'll do a time lapse for the other two colors, and it's basically going to be the exact same process again. Just you want to mix up the location, so there's some variation to the scene. So I'll be back in approximately 5 seconds, maybe longer, maybe shorter. Who knows? You'll know. You'll know in a minute. I'll be back in a second. So, just finished with these frames, and I think that's looking pretty good. There are a few things we need to change animation-wise, but I think in terms of scenes, or in terms of the scene, that is our final scene. That's looking good. Now, obviously, looking back at the reference video and image, or not the image, the video, these cubes are animated, they're rotating. So we're going to animate them now. Going to come back to the first frame. This doesn't matter too much. I'm just going to come over to here and just add rotation. I'm going to do it for all of them now, just so it saves me going back and forth. Just select each one and just press I on the rotation section of the, of the transform tab or object, you know what I mean. Then we're going to go to the end. There we go. And we're going to rotate this randomly. Randomly again, and then I randomly, oh, I pressed the wrong button. Randomly rotate it again, and finally for this one, do the same. Now you can realize that these are all Bezier again, so it's going to give the same issue as before where they're going to not be a constant speed, which we don't want. So I'm going to select all the cubes at once, and it will select all of the graphs for these cubes. I'm going to press A to select all, T linear, and you can see that these will all rotate at a constant speed. Looks amazing. I might actually move this slightly like that, and that's why actually I don't just press I, because if I press I, you can see it selects all of that. If I were to leave that now, not a good example. If I had keyframed the location here, I'll show you an example. So if I press I there, go to the end keyframe and I press I, it's giving me keyframes for all of the aspects of the animation. So if I decide midway through, oh, I want to move it over, and I press I again, you can see it's it's like changing location, which I don't want. So I'm going to come back again. And so that's why I only do the rotation. So if I can move it wherever I want, and it doesn't affect the rotation, it's still going to have the same rotation animation. So I'm just going to move that slightly. Yeah, so I'm going to move that to the side, just because I don't know, I think it looks better to the side slightly. So I'm going to do that. But I'm not going to lie, I'm quite happy with how this is looking. I think that's looking quite good. Maybe this light source here could be a bit lower. Come back into here. I think that's looking good. I just realised that we haven't added a material to any of these cubes. So I'm going to come over to it and double press, no, wrong one. Double press this collection box here. So it selects everything in the everything in the collection. I'm going to press Control J, so it becomes one image, and this will just allow us to add a material to the image as a. It's not one image. It will help me add a material to the object as a whole, rather than applying it to every single object. So I'm going to come over to here, New. I'm going to type in towers. I'm not too sure what they're called, but I'm calling them a tower. And I don't really need to add too much material to them. I did in my actual post that I made, I added a brick texture to it, but it was so faint and not noticeable that it's not really worth your time to do it. If you're going for super accuracy, you can look at the original video, and you should see maybe that there's slight texture, but you can't really notice it. It's like if you're really nitpicking. So for this example, I'm just going to leave it as a plain texture. But what I am going to do is I'm going to pull out of this base color, and I'm going to add a brightness / contrast node, and I'm going to up the brightness just slightly because I think it looks good. Come back to here, select the empty, and as you can see, if I pull it to the side, it's a little bit brighter. Maybe I can change the color slightly to a bit more bluey. I didn't do this in my original, but I'm thinking now it might look cooler. It's a bit more purpley actually, so maybe a bit more like that. But I think that's looking good. Oh, that is very blue. We don't want that blue. There we go. I think that's I think that's looking good. Change the roughness slightly. And there we have it. You can't see perfectly in that view, but that is the final scene. I think that's looking good. I hope the tutorial's been easy to follow. But before I sign off, I'm going to quickly show you some extra tips. So if we go to about the middle of the animation, I'm going to come over to here. It doesn't need to be this many samples, especially because we're going for like a retro look. So I'm going to change it to maybe 100. You can bring it even lower. It doesn't need to be 100. 100 is still quite high. Light paths, I'm going to select all of these to 4. You can hear my dog barking in the background. That's going to be 4 as well. Add some motion blur. Going to come into performance, persistent data. If you want to look at all of my tips without like in detail, I have actually made a video on quicker render times. But yeah, this is just my general setup. We're going to change the contrast to maybe high. I'm just realizing now that the fog isn't quite the color I want it to be, so I'm going to make it more, maybe more, a bit like that. That's looking good. So we've done that. That's the settings I normally go for. Make sure these settings are correct. And I'm going to press FN12, or I'll do it if you don't have FN12. You might be doing this on a Mac. I don't know. I've gone through my Mac phase. It's very difficult on a standard couple-year-old Mac. I'm not sure about the new ones. They're probably good now. But anyway, render image. And we're going to wait for this to render. It shouldn't take too long. Maybe do a speed lap and I'll dance. It's not even called speed lap, it's called time lapse. The time lapse dance, and it's done, nearly. Right, so if we look at this now, it's way too clear. Like everything's too crisp and it doesn't look right. So we're going to come into the compositing tab. We're going to press use nodes. I'm going to bring this over here. We're going to add a viewer node. We're going to pull the image into here. I'm going to press V a couple of times, not Z. And we're going to add a blur. I'm going to change this to about 2, maybe even higher, 3. Just to get rid of some of the crispness because we don't want it to be too crisp. On top of that, we're going to add a lens distortion because I love a bit of lens distortion. Maybe add some jitter. I quite like the jitter for especially these type scenes when they're meant to be more nostalgic, going for the older look. And what else am I going to add? Ah, yes. You see these trails here. They don't look as shiny as I want them to look, so I'm going to add a glare filter, and I'm going to put that here. That's already looking better, but it's not quite the look I'm going for. So I'm going to change this to bloom, and we're going to bring the threshold up slightly. We don't want to change that. To about that, I think. I think that's looking good. Now we've done that, come out, layout, and I think that's looking pretty good. But what I have also noticed is we obviously haven't actually animated the camera, which is silly me. So final thing we're going to do is we're going to animate the camera. We're going to start off with this frame. I'm going to add a keyframe to the Z axis, location, Z. And then for the final frame, if we come into here, we're going to move this down in the Z axis again to about here. And we're going to keyframe that. Look at that, perfect. So with this, unlike the rest of the animation, we want it to be Bezier because if you go back to the reference, it does start off slow and then it speeds up at the end. To replicate this, we are going to need to rotate this keyframe here, and then sort of what we're going for this sort of look. And you can see at the start, it's starting off too slow, so we're going to bring that down to give it more of a constant speed. Maybe that's a bit too fast. Bring it up slightly. Like this, it's got a constant speed, and as we get through the animation, it'll speed up. But we don't want it to, we don't want it to get this far before it speeds up. So to adjust this, we're going to bring it up to about there. Maybe scale this out a bit more. So we should just get to about here, just to about where the cubes are, and then it will speed up. Maybe we don't even be that high there. Just adjust this slightly. I think that looks okay. I think that's looking good. But we can't fully tell at the moment because we haven't added rotation. So I'm going to, again, make sure the camera is selected. I'm going to rotate. Make sure you can press Z, but if you're looking in the camera view, it should be in only the Z axis anyway. So we're going to rotate it slightly to maybe about there. And we're going to add a keyframe for the rotation. We're going to come to the end frame and we're going to rotate in the opposite direction to about there maybe. And again, we want it, so if we come down here, we can deselect, let me pull this over so we have more space to work with. We want to deselect the location, so we're just looking at the rotation. We want to have a similar looking graph to the location. So we're going to have it about here, like that. You can see, I think we don't want it to be as slow as the location. We want more rotation, so I think this is looking good. And as it goes, speeds through. Really though, I don't want it to. The rotation's fine, but the location I'm not actually 100% okay with. So I'm going to play with it a little bit more. I think what I need to do is maybe it's this. I'm not too sure. Let me. Play around a little bit. So yeah, I think that's looking good. I've gone back to the Z location just to double check. With the actual reference, when we get to about here, it fades out. So we're not going to see this fine. We're not going to see this part. But you want to render it anyway, just so you can work both ways. I think that's looking good. So if we come back to the rendered view, that I think is pretty good. Like I say, this is a pretty easy starting point as a project. They get a lot harder than this, especially when you're working with pretty much just cubes. It's a very simple scene, but it's very effective, and especially with the nostalgia aspect as well. I think it's a very nice starting point to work with, and I've very much enjoyed working on this, and I've very much enjoyed sharing it with you, even though I have stuttered so many times and restarted the tutorial so many times. I hope it hasn't come across like that. But yeah, I appreciate you watching the tutorial, and I'm going to go back to other Josh for a proper outro because I can't think of it on the spot. Oh my, I hope you didn't fall asleep because I certainly didn't. absolutely amazing tutorial I've just made, 50+ minutes. So like I said, it was kind of unedited. There's a little bit of edits in there, but mainly just cuts when I'm doing boring stuff or having breaks. I hope you watched to the end, and if you are still here, even if it's just one of you, please comment biscuits. Biscuits will do. Even if it's one of you. If it's 0 of you, I'll be a little bit upset, but it's fine. At least I've made a tutorial and it's on the page. You can come back to this at any time, or you can never come back to it. I'm rambling now. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you've made a cool PlayStation 2 animation. Please let me know if you've enjoyed this video and give me future tutorial ideas that you'd like to see. And if you did follow the full tutorial and recreate your own version of the PlayStation 2 animation, please send it to me on Instagram. That will be in the description. I would love to see what you guys have made. Anyway, thank you for watching. Adios.